Thank you. The George Washington Award, a legacy of freedom and democracy, to the former President of Ecuador, Jamil Mahuad. Please, Jamil, Dr. Jamil. Mahuad, overthrown President of Ecuador 21 days after implementing dollarization, that has given that country stability, wealth, prosperity, and that has placed it in the first world market. Legacy means what is left, what is transmitted. And this award is established to deliver it to those who leave things to the people, to the communities, to society. And in the case of Jamil, he has left extraordinary legacies to the Americas. President Jamil Mahuad divided the history of contemporary Ecuador into a before and after. In his own words, he closed the door to the past with the signing of the peace agreement with Peru, and he opened the doors to the future with the dollarization of the Ecuadorian economy. Two legacies. In just 17 months of government, he made the most important decisions in international matters, peace. In economic matters, dollarization. In social matters, he was a pioneer in the poverty bond that transferred cash to the poorest mothers in Ecuador. And in environmental matters, the declaration of the Yasuni area, the greatest biodiversity in the world, in the protected area where extractive activities cannot take place. 4 legacies. Those facts. These facts make him the Ecuadorian president whose decisions have most influenced the life of his country in at least the last 50 years, and his legacy is one of the most significant in Latin America. Regarding peace, President Clinton told Presidents Mahuad of Ecuador and Fujimori of Peru, "You have eliminated the source of the oldest armed international conflict in the Western Hemisphere." Regarding dollarization, President Osvaldo Hurtado, member of our council and of the board of directors of the Inter-American Institute for Democracy, has said, "Dollarization has done for the Ecuadorian people, for the poor, for workers, for the middle class, what none of the policies have done. That we have carried out as presidents of the Republic throughout this democratic period, since 1979 onwards, 44 years. The cash transfer program is the second most discussed in academic studies in Latin America and the World Wildlife Fund. He awarded President Mahuad's government the Gift to the Earth Award for its environmental policies. We must highlight that President Mahuad made all those decisions while fully upholding the democratic system, with a Congress controlled by the political opposition and with absolute respect for freedom of opinion and the press. President Mahuad, in addition to his unparalleled actions, has written a memoir titled, "This is How We Dollarized Ecuador," which not only narrates the chronology of events, but also accompanies it, with the explanation of the cultural and rational foundations that guided his public policies and his reflections on the exercise of power, politics, governance, and the ethical and moral responsibility of leaders. Leaders tasked with fulfilling the orders of the sovereign, which is the people. It had 3 editions in less than 6 months. We dollarized in Ecuador, and it became the best-selling book in Ecuador in 2021. It is a true honor for us to inaugurate the George Washington Award, a legacy to freedom and democracy, by giving it to the exiled former president of Ecuador, because those who leave legacies, in general, do not receive immediate recognition from the people and exiled Ecuadorian. On behalf of the Inter-American Institute for Democracy,
Thank you very much. I want to thank President Tomas Regalado, the members of the board of the Institute, and its executive director, Carlos Sanchez, for granting me this recognition, for signing the peace with Peru, and for dollarizing the Ecuadorian economy. I signed the peace convinced that a leader must choose between repeating the practices of the past that hold us back from moving forward, or imagining a new behavior that allows us to project ourselves into the future, between repeating the beaten path which leads nowhere, or imagining new solutions that allow us to dream of something different. To do this, it is necessary to admit that we must let go of practices that are dead and serve no purpose, or that are about to die. And we cling to them more out of emotional attachment than rational analysis. With those same ideas, I decided on the dollarization of the Ecuadorian economy. It has always inspired me a lot. The phrase, the dilemma, expressed by Robert Kennedy, when he said, "Some look at things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that have never been and I wonder why not." And the peace with Peru and the dollarization of Ecuador are two examples of why not to build a much more sensible and much fairer world for everyone. Many decades ago, the great Erich Fromm, he told us that we must distinguish, when talking about freedom, an essential element for democracy, between the freedom of and the freedom to. Freedom is what leads us to fight against the chains of oppression. And we have such great examples here this afternoon that I feel proud to share this platform with you. The freedom to, it allows us to imagine a fairer society where opportunities are distributed better. These two freedoms, freedom from and freedom to, are obligations of the leaders who must build them, along with a good democracy. A democracy that has legitimacy of origin because it comes from transparent, clean, and free elections. That it has legitimacy of exercise because it is practiced in accordance with the rule of law, the Constitution, and the laws. And that it has legitimacy of results because it improves the quality of life of the population of the communities. That triple legitimacy is necessary for a government to be fully democratic. The freedom from insists on the first legitimacy, but the freedom to insist on the third. And we need to give a lot of importance to that part. Today, I received this recognition in the Union of the Ladies and Gentlemen of the Republic, in the company of people who have been honored for freedom of expression, for investigative journalism, for innovative journalism, and in the company of a great Cuban poet, to whom we met many years ago in Latin America because of the story of his life. And in a conversation with Marcos Regalado this morning, I learned that he shared his life as a political prisoner with Don Tomás Regalado, the father of the president of this institute. And together they were able to gain their freedom through a negotiation with the Cuban government that brought them to this country via Costa Rica. The poet Valladares, remembering the conditions in which he was imprisoned, wrote, "They took everything from me. The pen, the pencils, the ink. They took all from me. Well, almost everything, because I still had left the smile, because I still had the pride of being a free man, because it remained in my soul, a garden of eternal little flowers. They took all from me, but I still had left the ink of life, the one of my blood, with which I still write verses Thank you. And well, here we are, those of us who have the pens, the pencils, and the ink. Those of us who have the opportunity in this American state, where 50% of incoming tourism comes to visit, a site created by a man who thought that imagination is perhaps the most important part of a human being. A man who built a magical world in Orlando under the phrase, if you can dream it, you can do it. And so, following the why not from Robert Kennedy, it is our duty to dream of this new democracy. Because support for democracy has declined, it has softened. Surveys say this in all countries of America. And a poor reading of those figures leads some to think those who show discontent with democracy, what they want is a dictatorship, an authoritarian regime. Those who are discontent with democracy want more democracy. They want a more legitimate, more efficient democracy that produces results, not less democracy. So, this is what the Inter-American Institute for Democracy defends. And in that effort, we must all commit ourselves. We must use pens, pencils, and ink to dream of this democracy, because if we dream it well, we can make it well. And because then, with the smile that remains with us, with the soul, with the garden of eternal little flowers, and with the ink of our blood, which is the ink of life, we will be able to write for many years the verses of democracy still. Thank you very much.